Hello, friends. Thank you very much for joining me again. So we're here, Washington D.C. We're at the National Citizenship Leadership Conference. Find some friends, make some friends, get some connections. It's going to be a good day. We're going to meet some good people. Hello. Thank you very much for joining me. I really do appreciate this. First and foremost, can you tell me and the people, who are you?
My name is Terry Mandel.
Hello, my name is Mark Goldfarb. I am a high school geometry teacher and living in Brooklyn, New York, teaching in Manhattan.
My name is Jeffrey Beeman. I'm from Richmond, California.
I'm Ben. I'm the Ben and Jerry's guy. Me and Jerry, we made Ben and Jerry's. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Oh my.
Wait.
I am. Oh my God.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is special to me. This is special to me.
Baby.
Can I just say I'm a vegan? The fact that you guys came out with those vegan flavors,
We did.
You made my life.
I love to make your life.
Yes. I'm a very happy vegan. The ice cream is delicious.
My name is Pam Wilmot, and I'm Executive Director of Common Cause Massachusetts.
Wonderful.
I am Wuboy Gatheru, and I am a Citizen Empowerment Coordinator at American Promise.
Yes, thank you.
My name is Dimitri Hoth. I've just graduated from Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida.
So my name is Holly Mosher, and I'm the producer of the film Pay to Play, Democracy's High Stakes.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, I had no idea that I just have a superstar. I had no idea. Oh my God.
That's why I'm wearing this shirt.
Oh my God. Yes, ladies, I got a movie star.
Okay, Mike Mineta. I'm the National Director of Wolfpack.
Wolfpack, woot woot. I decided to post up right near this beautiful, gorgeous painting of the United States. It says, "We the people." I'll get a picture or two, but it is just amazingness. But the most important thing is we're going to talk to the people that decided to come here, decided to take a weekend off to come and fight for a better future. We're asking everyone two very simple questions. Number one, who are they? And number two, why money out of politics? Why the 28th Amendment? Why is this issue such a big issue that instead of just saying we need Congress to pass a bill, we need Congress to do some legislation, we need the Senate, why is it so important that we actually need an amendment? That is the question.
Money in politics, to me, influences all other issues in the entire country. Honestly, it's all over the world. You know, special interest groups have this stranglehold over all of our legislators, and they rely so heavily on their fundraising and their money that they get that they forget about the people that they're supposed to represent.
That's because money plays way too big of a role in our politics than it should. When the Supreme Court decided that corporations have human rights and that their money is speech, it basically left people that don't have as much money as them pretty much politically powerless.
It's crazy.
It is absolutely crazy. And the amount of money that has flowed into elections and that has thusly influenced policy has been absolutely egregious and has really, really hurt the American democratic system and has really compromised the integrity of our elections in so many different ways.
Yeah, you can say that again. And like the crazy thing is, if you know anything, and I don't know the exact numbers, but I know that the fact of the matter is every single election is a record-breaking year about money in politics.
Exactly.
Every single year, every single election, midterm, presidential, it doesn't matter. Every year we break the record because that's more and more money. You are absolutely correct. It makes those who are not well off powerless.
Right.
And this is a democracy. Wealth should not determine your voice.
Exactly.
Without getting money out of politics, really you can't address the other issues. With money in politics, it's really not a representative democracy, and people's voices don't count as much as they should.
Yes.
Each person should have a vote that is equally weighted and a voice that is equally heard, but with money in politics, that's obviously not the case.
Well, because it touches everything. Any issue that we want to fix, we've got to get the money out.
Well, it's obvious, especially with the occurrences that happened at my school and that have happened across the country at other schools, that the NRA has influenced the politics to keep these types of weapons that have been used in mass shootings in the market. And so we see now that the majority of the country does not want these types of weapons on the market. Yeah, but because the influence of the NRA is so strong in politics, we see that the politicians are not listening to their constituency, but rather listening to the corporations and still continuing to not support the laws that are making the changes possible.
Yeah.
So now we have people, unfortunately, that are being murdered across the country, and our politicians are still doing nothing about it.
And to me, I've had a difficult time my entire life having food on the table and opening.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. And opening up the fridge and just not seeing enough food there, and just struggling, trying to get by, struggling to get an education, struggling just for a lot of things. And there are so many other people who have had it much harder than I have. And every time I think about it, it hurts so much to know that so many people are struggling, and the number is just constantly growing. Yes. People are suffering. People are dying from every range of issues, whether it's the environment, gun rights. The whole nine. Nothing can be done until big money is out of politics. It's the number one issue in the country, and unfortunately not enough people are on it, but this is a call to action. We need every person on board with every issue and their own agenda so that we can fix just one thing in the country to start fixing everything else.
Well, we totally believe that business works better on a level playing field.
Amen to that.
Money in politics corrupts and destroys innovation. And if this country was about anything ever that mattered to me, it's about the kind of innovation that is fostered when people can pursue great ideas in the marketplace.
Yeah. And like right what you said in the beginning is like super, it just hit like the right spot. You're right, innovation is the key, right, to the future and beyond. But you can't have all of the innovation in the world if it isn't a level playing field. And money in politics makes it very difficult for the little guy to compete with the big, huge, multi-billion-dollar corporations. Money out of politics. You made a whole movie about it.
Yeah,
Why
so
is it
I'm a
important to you?
filmmaker, and I've made other films, and it always comes down to money in politics. I made Vanishing of the Bees, about how the bees are dying off, made films on the pharmaceutical industry, and it's always money corrupting the politicians so that we don't get what we the people want.
So I have to.
Yeah.
That's amazing to find that out. But I have to ask, how in the world is money in politics affecting the bees? How is that a thing?
Well, that's because these companies, the pesticide companies, influence politicians.
God. It really is everywhere.
Yeah, in Europe they have banned the neonicotinoids, which are causing colony collapse disorder. And here we're just looking into it so that these chemical companies, which, Bayer makes these products, Monsanto uses them on their seeds, they can influence this. And
oh my, we've got a high school teacher, y'all. I'm a nurse, so I feel like if nursing were to have a sibling profession, I always, to my heart, believe teachers is that profession.
Wow.
And being in a profession that is mainly female, I love seeing other male nurses, other male teachers. Woot woot, we came together.
I think big money in politics takes the democracy out of the hands of the people and into the hands of big businesses. I think everyone should have a fair vote, and I think that people should govern and not the money.
See, this is what I'm talking about. So she's a student. She's in political science. I think she said it just very clearly, eloquently. I goddamn love it. Thank you for what you're doing. Ladies and gentlemen, can we please vote for her for president?
Yes,
congratulations. But I'm not quite sure if it got your name. So one more time, can you just tell us your name?
Allie Aquilina Piscatello.
Thank you very much.
Because you can't really solve anything else until you get money out of politics, right? Every other social issue of today is getting hindered by it. Whether you want to get criminal justice reform, you can't have effective criminal justice reform when this GEO group is, donating and contributing and building money to politicians so they can get private prisons. You want to get clean energy, you can't get clean energy when, Exxon and these big oil companies are, basically bankrolling politicians. No matter where you go, the answer is pretty simple, that until you fix this really gaping problem in American democracy, you're never going to be able to fix American democracy across the board and really progress to make a more inclusive society that ideally some people believe our founders wanted in the first place.
I love that answer. I love it. It encompasses everything, and that's the truth.
There's so many issues of pressing concern right now in this country and really around the world that need a government that is responsive to the needs of the people to address. And unfortunately, our government, both federal, state, and local, are all compromised to some extent, mostly on the federal level. It's not as bad on the state and local, but really the entire political system has been permeated with special interest money that makes it very difficult to address these very complex and important problems. And until we deal with that, we're going to have a hard time dealing with everything else.
In my day job, I'm a scientist.
You're a scientist.
I work on alternative fuels, taking CO2 out of the atmosphere and making fuels out of it.
Oh my goodness. Ladies and gentlemen, I had no idea we had Elon Musk here. My goodness.
Not quite. And in that role, so in that role, I see things like, for me personally, one of the strongest motivators for American Promise, 28th Amendment, and that kind of thing, is that I see decisions being made in Washington that are contrary to what science is telling us. They're contrary to what's good for the planet overall, for the health of our very own species as well as life on the planet, and how little regard is given to science right now. Or for instance, if science happens to tell a story which is contrary to big oil making a lot of money, somehow that information is lost. It's magically disappeared.
Yes.
And I keep hearing these decisions that are made, and I'm saying, how is that possible? We know about this stuff. We've known about it for decades, and these decisions are being made. The rest of the world is moving on and making the better decisions, in my opinion, and somehow we are muddling around, polluting the rest of the world with our stuff,
exactly,
and not making a difference. The thing that comes most clear to me is that there's moneyed interests involved that are pushing the debate in a particular direction.
Yes.
For the few, not for the many. It's not good for the commons, and that drives me to do things like this.
So what is Ben & Jerry's doing at this conference? Why is getting money out of politics important to you, an ice cream connoisseur?
Well, getting money out of politics to me is about justice, is about creating a country that cares more about regular everyday people than wealthy people and corporations. I think, money is currently corrupting our political system. I mean, it's kind of a secret that everybody knows.
Exactly.
So we have elections, and we elect senators and congressmen, and we think they represent us, but they don't. They represent the people who give them hundreds of thousands of dollars in so-called campaign donations, which John McCain calls legalized bribery.
Exactly. And this is John McCain, ladies and gentlemen. This is a Republican. We're not talking about the progressives of the progressives, although Senator Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, although they agree, because this is one of them issues that the vast majority of Americans do agree on.
Huge.
Exactly.
I mean, it's about 80% of Americans, of Republicans, Democrats, Independents, all agree that we need to get big money out of politics.
Absolutely. I think money in politics is the fundamental issue that we need for the many reforms that we need in our nation, as well as to improve civil discourse, to improve our election process. So it's really, I'm sure as many people have talked about, a fundamental, essential thing for us to take back the power over our republic and for our government officials and politicians to represent us instead of special interests.
So there's a lot of things, a lot of problems we have in this country that we need to fix, but we can't fix any of them as long as our elected representatives are beholden to big money and corporate interests.
Yes.
Money is issue zero for me. You can't solve any other issue until you solve this one first.
Yes.
Reclaim democracy for human beings, for ordinary voters, and take rich donors out of the equation. Then we can actually talk to our representatives and ask them to do what needs to be done to fix the problems in this country.
And then the most important question, why we are all here, why is it important that we get money out of politics? Why is it important that we pass the 28th Amendment?
Oh, God, it's the issue that affects all the other issues, Yes. We can't solve any of the big problems that we have right now, right? Education, the environment, healthcare. It just goes down the list. Every single one of them is getting affected by special interests getting involved, influencing our elected officials on the federal level. As we've seen through studies, actual studies, actual data showing that because of that, our interests are not being represented and haven't been for a long time, decades.
For example, the gun issue. 93% of people want a background check.
Right.
And that's 93% of America wants to have background checks, and that itself can't get passed. It's insanity.
It's totally insane. And I think that's such a great example to use because gun reforms are one area that there is broad bipartisan agreement.
Exactly. At least for the basics.
For the basics, yeah, like universal background checks, closing the gun show loophole, etc. These are things that 80-90% of Americans, including most NRA members and most Republicans, all agree on.
But the NRA wants to continue making money, and that's what they keep lobbying for.